Hello and welcome to Gilmore's Glorious Gossip, a show dedicated to our favorite nerdy-ass voice actors playing D&D Critical Role over on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel. Some quick news for you guys. Starting next Saturday, tune in right here to join in the conversation live. You heard that right. Starting next Saturday, we'll be live streaming right here at 9 p.m. Central Time. That way you guys can join the conversation and we can actually have a real conversation. And, you'll get a shout out on the stream. Don't worry, we will still post our episodes every Monday, but, it'll give us a chance to interact with you guys on another level. Maybe hear your opinions on the episodes as well. This week we are featuring two more amazing artists. The current art you're seeing is from Devin, who is known as @damage_KO over on Twitter. And later you'll be seeing a piece from Once and Future Kiki, who is known as @OnceInFutureKiki. If you'd like your art featured here, please let any of the show's hosts know via Twitter. You can do so at the official Gilmore_Gossip Twitter account, or you can contact us via our direct Twitter accounts. I'm Akiva, found on Twitter at AKIVADAPHYDD, and joining me today is my good friend Kat. Introduce yourself and tell us about your worst gaming experience.
Oh, my worst gaming experience. Okay, that one's an easy one, actually. Hi, guys, I'm Kat, or KittenSmittenG on Twitter. Also, can I just say Once and Future Kiki? That is an awesome handle. Love that. I think I've actually said this story before. It was my first D&D experience, actually was my worst. So I'm surprised I kept playing. But it was when we went to a gaming shop trying to find a group to play D&D with, and I believe I told a story about feeling like I was going to get murdered as we went around the back of the shop to try to find this room that apparently they were all playing in. Yeah, it was a scary place. It was down an alleyway, and I thought we were going to get shivved. But it ended up being okay. We kind of walked away from that going, okay, we're never going back to that shop again, but D&D seems okay. We like the game, but probably not going back to that shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
How about you?
Well, in my case, nothing quite so dangerous, but I was running a public game, and we had a guy sit at the table, and he was just straight up misogynistic the entire time. I did give him warnings, but at one point he cut off, I believe I've mentioned this story before, but he cut off one of the female players and said that her opinion didn't matter because she was just a girl. So I had to kick him off my table because I don't put up with that.
I do remember that story, but I don't think you mentioned what he was doing as well.
I mean, it wasn't like blatant out there, but
yeah.
Any form of misogyny.
Yeah, at a table.
D&D is about bringing people together, not ostracizing or excluding people, and I refuse to allow that at my tables. And it just made for a miserable experience.
That's terrible. Well, yeah, you definitely get those kinds of players, but...
Unfortunately.
Oh, gosh.
But that's why we love shows like Critical Role, because it's an inclusive community.
Yes, and we love episodes like this one, because this one was amazing.
Oh my god, it was so intense from start to finish. But
it was so good.
Before we get into the actual episode, your notes actually brought up a really good thing that showed the player's mindset as they were going into the game. So why don't you tell us about the Periscope?
So, a couple of minutes before the session started, Liam jumped on Periscope and he was with Will Wheaton. And I thought that's strange, they're all hanging around out the back there, but they had a plan. They decided that they were going to send Wheaton in to see Matt and have Wheaton touch Matt and his dice and his minis and everything to try to get his curse onto Matt. But I was thinking as I was watching this Periscope, I remember Wheaton's curse. It actually works both ways. So whenever Wheaton needs to roll high, he'll roll low. But when he needs to roll low, he also rolls high. So I kind of thought, when I was watching him do this, I'm like, I don't know if this curse is going to work the way the players want it to. I think it's going to work against them. And it kind of did, in a way, but...
It kind of did. By the same token, though, it worked on everybody.
Yeah.
Because there were times when... So, if you look at crit roll stats, there was a high number of nat 20s rolled on both sides of the DM screen.
Yeah.
And, last week, Matt had said, there are numbers between 20 and 1. And that held true very much so in this week's episode.
Yeah. So maybe Wheaton just touched too many things.
Possibly.
He just overloaded the room.
And it, something else, again, in your notes, it doesn't have anything to do with the combat, so go ahead and bring it up now. Sam's shirt.
Oh, that was crazy. So he had it hidden the entire time. And just before they started combat, he rips it open and goes, "This is what I think of, what's going to happen tonight." And it was a picture of him from the intro video.
Yes.
Where he sings his "ha" and has the dick lightning. And just a capture of his face. And then just a little bit of Pike's face on his sleeve.
Yes.
Good luck, I guess. It was perfect. He had to made himself. He's a very talented man.
And then, over on Twitter, Matt Abernathy, and forgive me, I don't remember your Twitter handle. Kalia knows it off the top of her head, and I feel bad because I don't remember the handle. But Matt Abernathy actually created a shirt from the picture of that Sam had put on Twitter of him wearing the shirt, making the same face as the shirt.
Oh my god, that's perfect!
And later that same day...
Shirtception.
Yes. Later that same day, Sam said, I would totally wear that. And...
Yeah.
So right now, the thought... Matt said he would send it out. We'll see if and when it gets there, and if Sam will wear it on the show. And then we have to start that cycle where, once a month or so, Sam wears the shirt, we get an image of him, we make a new shirt, just keep it going for as long as possible, make it a running gag.
Oh gosh, that would be crazy.
Indeed.
It takes a lot of guts to wear a shirt with your own face on it.
Yes, it does.
I'm just putting that out there.
But, it is so awesome.
He's a gutsy man, yeah.
Well, speaking of Scanlan and Sam, during their announcements, they announced the Dear Vox Machina, where all of the letters and questions that have been asked of the characters by people either in the chat or, at conventions or whatnot, letters that have been written and so on, they're actually going to be answered in character in these little shorts. Scanlan's has already gone up. I'll put the link in the description below. But it's on the Geek and Sundry, Dear Vox Machina, Ask Scanlan. And thank you for
It's really good.
yes, thank you for grabbing the link and putting that into the notes, Kat. I admit, although I've watched it, I forgot to grab the link, so makes
That's
things a
okay.
little easier for me. So thank you.
No worries.
Um, so after they do their announcements, Matt, uh, unveils the now extended Dwarven Forge setup.
I'm so jealous
Yes, so am I.
of everything that has. Yeah.
So he had the square set up so you could see the houses and buildings around it, and the houses and buildings came apart so you could move inside the buildings.
So cool.
Yes. So now we can actually see the entirety of the battlefield. And one thing that I was not expecting was how few innocents there actually were on the battlefield.
Oh.
Because
You,
Matt had made a point of saying that the barbarian tribes were bringing the innocents to the town square. But
yes.
when he revealed the extended one, I think there was like 4 or 5.
Yep. Yep.
I was expecting like 10 or 12.
Maybe. Yeah, you're right. There probably should have been more. But maybe the rest were being held back somewhere else, and those were just the ones dragged closer to the battle. I'm not sure.
Possible.
Not sure, but or maybe Matt was just like, "There's enough things on this board to keep track of. I'll just
Indeed.
put 5 innocents there, and that'll do." Which we can forgive him for if that
Oh
was the
yeah.
decision.
Especially with the number of barbarians that he had to keep track of.
This battle, about halfway through, I said in chat, I'm like, he looks so drained, he looks so tired. But
Well,
I can understand 100% why,
yeah,
because that would have just been the most mentally taxing battle. Crazy.
absolutely. Um, so the battle, picked up uh, with, right after Grog had given his battle shout of Vox Machina, F shit up,
Yeah.
which was great. Um, but immediately there were people who were still talking about how in the previous episode Kevdak had taken half damage even from the fire damage from the firebrand Warhammer.
Right.
Matt's on Friday. Matt actually did a Periscope where he talked about what happened with the battle and that sort of thing, and answered a few questions. So I figure, in case you missed that, and in case you haven't heard the explanation yet, Kevdak is a bear totem barbarian,
Yeah.
with some fighter classes thrown in as well. But bear totem, when they rage, they have all damage except psychic. So whether it's magic, fire, cold, acid, piercing, slashing, bashing, it's all halved. So there's the answer on that. Um, so
Yeah, that question
go
did
ahead.
come up quite a bit in chat. It seemed like the most common question, most constant question throughout the entire battle.
Yes.
But yeah,
Bear
that's why.
bear totem barbarians are scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so, you know, now that everybody is jumping in, Matt has everyone roll new initiatives. Um, and he does make things a little bit easier on himself by having a group initiative for the barbarians. But the barbarians are split into three groups. Kevdak, the melee barbarians, and the ranged barbarians. And I keep calling them barbarians, but the herd and tribes, they're not all barbarian class. They just go by the title of barbarian because they wander the plains and live that lifestyle. But there are fighters and rangers, and as we saw with the eagles, even druids among them. So, one thing to keep in mind when you go to watch the episode or re-watch the episode, because hopefully you've seen it already.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's going to be plenty of spoilers. Just warning.
Yes. So they re-roll their initiatives, and there are natural 20s rolled on both sides of the screen from the beginning.
It begins.
Yes.
It begins.
But, Vox Machina does get a surprise round because they were hidden before GROG called them out. The twins hold their turn, and the silent group planning starts.
Yeah, we could kind of tell at that point they've got something under their sleeve, like something's coming.
Yes. At the end of the episode, everybody, admitted that they had been talking almost all week about how to approach this battle.
Yep. Which is awesome.
Yes. So, Liam, when he says, hey, I'm going to hold... When he said he was going to hold, he said hold turn. And that's an optional rule if the DM wants to take it. Holding a turn means you are voluntarily taking a lower initiative.
Oh.
So that you get your your movement, your action, and your bonus action.
I didn't pick up that he said hold turn.
I
thought he said hold action.
Well, no, at first he said hold turn, but then, said it when he reiterated it, he said action.
Right.
But one thing that I've noticed through my experiences with Critical Role, Matt has never used that optional rule. He's always been of the mind that you hold an action, not a turn. Which is fine. His game, his rules. Nothing wrong with it. No one is in the wrong. It's just that's where some of the confusion comes from because of the optional rules.
Right.
But I mean, other than specific events in the combat, there was just so much going on that I don't know how we could approach this. Like when in my notes, if you look at my notes, it's literally
just
the combat.
Well, you're looking at mine now, and they're just like it's just a mess.
Well, no,
it was just one amazing move after another. The entire party did so well.
Indeed.
Yeah. We could probably start it off with.
I think
Scanlan's.
Yeah, I was going to say
Scanlan getting the ball rolling. Yeah.
Scanlan really got the ball rolling. With on his turn, he jumped out into the front, shouted out, and mooned the barbarians in order to get their attention. And then, as Sam described, using his hand cone from between his legs.
Perfect image.
Yes. he shouted out a cutting words when Kevdak attacked GROG. Now, it only reduced the damage by 1 hit point, as you pointed out. But the disadvantage that it imposed was really key for this battle.
Yeah, so we kind of all sighed at that. Like when he did the cutting words, we're like, oh, only 1 damage, damn. But there was a bigger plan afoot. That wasn't the whole purpose of that, which is really cool.
Like, it was the brilliance of it that I couldn't see until after it had happened.
Me neither. And I was kicking myself. I'm like, of course. Like, it just makes, yeah.
So the disadvantage that came into play, Kevdak then had disadvantage on saving throws. And Scanlan cast Hold Person at high enough level that he could get 2 targets. So he cast it on Kevdak and Greenbeard. And both of them failed their saves. So Kevdak was held in place. Greenbeard, who, if it wasn't obvious from the description, was a druid.
Yes. So his healer.
Yeah, essentially his healer. Both
that was
of them.
key.
Yes, both of them became held, and Vox Machina just tore into Kevdak.
So the thing that they brought up, which is amazing with Whole Person, is that you can attack the target
Without
not
breaking
only
the
that,
paralysis.
Yeah, without breaking it. Not only that, I think it gives it a bonus. Does it give attacks?
So, you have advantage on the attack.
Yep.
And this, I don't know if it... let me pull up the spell to see if it mentions it specifically. But it paralyzes the individual, which lowers their armor class. Because when you're paralyzed, you don't get your dex bonus. Your movement is 0, your dex bonus is 0, and barbarians using having unarmored or their armor class is based off of dex and constitution. So once you're held, your armor class takes a huge hit. Hold person.
Some saving throw.
It does not mention that in the spell itself.
No.
But if it does mention paralyzed. So if you go back to the
Conditions.
The conditions, which start on page 290 of the player's handbook, a paralyzed creature, and this is on page 291 under paralyzed. A paralyzed creature is incapacitated and can't move or speak. The creature automatically fails strength and dexterity saving throws. Attack rolls against the creature have advantage. Any attack that hits the creature is an automatic critical hit if the attacker is within 5 feet of the creature.
Cue GROG with brutal criticals.
Oh my god, it was beautiful.
That setup was amazing.
And
And
GROG was brilliant about the way he did it. He could have picked up his Flame Tongue Warhammer. Instead, he took the Blood Axe from Kevdak and used that on him. I mean, he just disarmed Kevdak.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just.
Oh, it was beautiful.
I love when players just really think about things and play so smartly that you as a GM, you're standing at the front of the table going, I can't even be angry. I can't even
Exactly.
be mad at this. This is just so amazing. And I could see that look on Matt's face quite a number of times. And in chat, people are like, Matt is pissed. I'm like, guys, Matt isn't pissed.
He's
Matt is blown
amazed.
away.
Yes.
He's blown away by this because this is so amazing. And as a GM, this is what we live for. This is just, like battles like this is just amazing for us. So,
Absolutely. Now,
great.
when Grog was attacking, he was doing a called shot on Kevdak's arm.
Yeah.
Which I thought was also beautiful because you cut off his arms, he no longer has, or he no longer gets the bonus from the Titanstone Knuckles. Which we'll get into what those bonuses are a little later.
Also allowed them, if they dropped those knuckles on the ground, if they had to escape, a chance to still take them.
Grab them and go.
Yep.
And not only was Grog doing that, Percy, who was up on top of one of the roofs, was taking shots at Kevdak's outstretched arm. Because before the hold person went off, Kevdak turned around, pointed it up at Scanlan with his arm out, giving a perfect target for Percy to shoot at. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good.
As for called shots, the rules are kind of murky on that. So what Matt does was, depending on who it was that was attacking and all that, the attacks were at disadvantage and a -5 to hit.
Yeah.
But the consequences for hitting, such a huge reward.
Worth it.
But once Vox Machina revealed themselves, all the other barbarians started getting in on it. So you've got the archers up on top of the roofs, and Kiki, or Keyleth, being in her air elemental form, she's like, well, all I have to do is stand next to them, and there's a chance that they'll get thrown off the roof. So she goes and stands up next to them.
Yeah. The biggest thing about being an elemental of any kind is because you've got such a massive amount of hit points, the bonus of that is that you want to be the tank. You want to be the one taking all the hits. And she just wasn't... It wasn't her fault at all. It wasn't really anything that she did or didn't do. Because she was also rolling rather badly. In fact, out of everyone on the table that night, her rolls were terrible. Her rolls were really bad.
True, but at the same...
She just wasn't pulling aggro.
Yeah, but at the same time, and this, Matt confirmed it later, but something that had been going on in my mind, and when I say Matt confirmed it later, he confirmed it in the Periscope he did on Friday.
Yeah.
It's... With the way the hierarchy of the barbarian tribes works, if she had started taking point, then the barbarians would not have taken them as seriously.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, yes...
It really had to be GROG.
Yeah. I mean, yes, there are druids and fighters, maybe even rogues, for all I know, living within the tribes, but they're taught to respect physical power.
Yeah.
When Kevdak and Grog interacted, it became very obvious, very well known, that the tribe members should at least respect Grog. And all of these other individuals were just faceless people. So it had to be Grog that took point and, for lack of a better term, finished this. Which
Yeah.
we'll get to how it all resolves in a moment.
Yeah.
um, but one of the things that Pike does in order to assist is she summons her spiritual weapon.
Yeah. A big one, as she
Yes.
says with a little look at the camera.
Yes.
A big one.
And she doesn't specify what, but Matt mentioned a great sword. And as you put in the notes, the same image occurred to me. Yeah, why not, a holy version of Craven Edge?
Yeah. It's justice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Use it for good.
Yes. But then her first attack, yet another natural 20.
It was so good.
Oh, man. Um,
But then,
yeah, Pike tries to move on the roof so she can get a better vantage point. And because of her armor, she falls.
yeah. So it was a really high, and then a really low.
I think it was a nat 20 and a nat 1.
Oh, it could have been. It was pretty devastating. They were calling it the kill zone that blocks down on the ground, which is a good word for it.
Oh yeah. In military terms, that is exactly what it was.
Yeah. And she fell into it, sadly. Poor little Pike.
Yep. But fortunately, she has a fairly high AC, and she's a cleric, so
True.
if it came to an emergency situation, she does have the option of healing herself. But when that happens, the barbarians that are closest to her close in on her. Some of them go running towards Grog. And so essentially her and Grog are now surrounded. One of the barbarians climbed up onto the roof to go after Scanlan. Percy also got hounded by one up on the roofs. But at one point, Scanlan cast Fireball. And this was a little later in the combat. And by later, I mean Kevdak finally broke free of the hold person. And it moved towards Greenbeard. Greenbeard broke free. And because of Grog's attacks and everything, Kevdak only had one arm. And that one arm was only held on by muscle. Like one strip of muscle.
Thanks to Percy.
Yes. But Greenbeard was able to heal Kevdak so that he'd have at least a little bit of use from the one arm. Scanlan tried to counterspell it, but failed the roll, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that rather important part that happened right before that. So Grog, having been surrounded by the barbarians, he was just taking hits. It's sort of what barbarians do. They are the tanks of the group, but Travis was looking a little worried and trying to play it off like, yeah, no big deal, no big deal. But he was getting pretty close to death. And Vex. Why don't you tell us about Vex?
That was a pretty amazing move. So Vex was actually still in a house in cover. She jumps on her broom, flies through the window, grabs her Pokemon ball. I'm going to call it the Pokeball.
Yep.
And reaches out to Grog. And flies over Grog and says, Grog, lift up your arm. And Matt, and I think even myself, I was sitting there going, what is she trying to do? Is she trying to release the bear into the group of people? Or what was she trying to do? But did she let him out previously?
Yeah, she let him out
in the previous episode. I completely forgotten.
At the end of the previous episode, she lets Trinket out.
Trinket out of the thing, so it was empty. And I thought that originally that's what she was going to do. She was going to release Trinket on top of all of these guys, and I'm like, wow, this is daring. Like, this is desperate. But then it kind of all came together. She was trying to medevac Grog out of this death zone that he found him in, and it was such an amazing use that they were given this item and they've used it so amazingly in so many different situations. And this was another example where when Grog touched it, of course he was into the gem, and then she just kept flying.
Yep. Now
he was out of danger.
Yes, she did take attacks of opportunity from the barbarians that had surrounded Grog. Yes. But I just want to pause for a moment. The utter look of awe on Matt's face.
Yeah.
First there was surprise or confusion when he was like, "What are you doing?" And then surprise when he figured it out. And then like, "Oh my God, that was brilliant."
Amazing.
But, one thing I saw in both the Geek and Sundry chat as well as the Critters D&D chat, why wasn't there any sort of save for staying on the broom? And you found a really great answer to that on Reddit. So I'll let you go ahead and read that off.
Tlusk01 or TLUSC01 on Reddit. He said, normal melee attacks usually don't have any effect on your movement. You do not lose movement when an AOO hits you. You do not fall off a cliff if multiple attacks hit you, unless you do something specifically aimed at moving you, such as grappling or shoving. The only rule regarding this is on page 198, mounting and dismounting. Any effect that moves your mount against your will or knocks you or your mount prone initiates a dexterity saving throw. So flying the broom never really was depicted as being incredibly hard. It's pretty much telepathically, so I don't see why there would be much difference in riding a mount.
Exactly. The way I picture it is when Vex is on her broom, she's got the broom between her legs, and then she crosses her ankle. The reason I see it this way, riding the broom is new to her. She doesn't have anywhere to put her feet. It's just, like I said, it's my own particular flavor to the scene. Laura probably has her own image. Matt has his image. Everybody's going to see the image slightly different. But the attacks were, they were using great swords. So the attacks were slashing damage, not pushing damage or
like
anything
bludgeoning.
Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
When I saw this scene, I was one of those people who was like, concentration check? Concentration check was the check. Personally, for me, I probably would have called a concentration check only once. I had one of my friends actually, I would have done it on every single hit. And I kind of looked at her and went, remind me never to play a game with you.
Yeah.
As a DM ever. Every single hit, that is so mean. Just because I would have said, getting hit that many times, having to grab grog and all of that kind of thing would have been very taxing for you mentally to then also have to steer the broom. Just give me one concentration check just to see if you do kind of hang on, you don't fly into a tree or something like that. However, I can also see how that's kind of a dick call now, especially after reading Telesco one's little comment on Reddit there. That does make sense.
Yeah, and it's if they were intentionally trying to knock her down, that would
Yeah,
be one thing. But they were
sure.
just taking random slashing attacks. So,
Hmm.
there is a reason why when or why the jousting lance is designed the way it is. It is designed to push. I mean, yes, it pierces as well, but that's more of a side effect.
Right.
Um, the lance was designed to push people off of other mounts. Um, if you look at medieval weaponry designed to take people off of mounts, they're usually hooked or, you know, bashing type weapons that are designed to push when they hit. You don't see people being taken off of a horse unless they die or
So
are
they're getting
mortally wounded.
slashed.
But yeah, you don't see them by getting slashed by a sword. I'm not saying that it
That
doesn't
makes
happen.
sense.
I'm just saying that it's not normal for it to happen.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
um, but yeah, so Grog is medevaced away, and as they fly away, Vex takes a lot of damage, but
Yeah.
still gets to safety.
And I love that image that Matt relayed for that is that she's holding, the gem in her bloody hand and blood is dripping from her arm and
Her arms and her
yeah. It
legs
was
and
a
her
very
feet,
yeah.
just wow. Um, so and then after that happens, uh, one of the barbarian that had gone up onto the roof after Scanlan, takes 4 attacks on him, and it was the 4th attack that finally interrupted Scanlan's concentration that allowed
Right.
Greenbeard and Kevdak to be free.
He was doing so well for so
Yes.
long.
That Warcaster feat, man. I mean, between the hold person,
Yeah.
the
Cutting
random,
words.
the cutting words, the random, uh,
Spell.
uh,
Counter spell, sorry.
well,
Counter
the
spell.
counter spell, even though it failed, it was a brilliant idea.
The
But no,
first one didn't.
the first one didn't.
Yeah, he did too. And the first one
Yes,
was successful.
yes,
The second one, though, sadly.
yeah. But he also did, I think, 2 healing words.
Right.
I mean, Scanlan was the MVP for that combat.
Unbelievable. If you ever want to know how to play a bard,
Yeah, watch Sam Riegel play a
just,
bard.
yeah, watch Scanlan.
Yes.
Crazy.
Um, so after Kevdak gets healed, uh, Scanlan lets loose a fireball, and he has to choose where it lands. And instead of hitting Vax, who was in that particular area, he chose to move it slightly so that it missed Vax, but hit the innocents, 2 of the innocents
Yup.
that were there, and he ended up
That's
killing them.
it comes down to players, and I mean, I have players like this in my group. You still see NPCs kind of as disposable. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're the lesser of
So
sacrifice in this particular circumstance.
So in the army, we have very specific rules when it comes to what is called collateral damage, and it includes loss of life of non-combatants on the field.
Yeah.
We will do everything within our power to make sure that doesn't happen. But the first priority must always be the mission.
Right.
Every mission has its mission objective, but the second issue of every mission is bring back all of your people.
Okay. And I suppose if they'd hit backs, it would weaken
It would
their
have
chances at.
yeah, it is in Scanlan's mind at that time, it would have jeopardized the mission.
That's a
Is
tough
it
call.
is it a really sucky situation? Absolutely. As a soldier, having been on the battlefield, we do our absolute best to not injure a non combatant.
Yeah.
But it does happen. That being said, there were a lot of questions on whether or not Scanlan would take a hit to his alignment.
Alignment.
And as Matt said in the Periscope on Friday, which thank you to Critical Scope for posting that, for recording it and posting it.
Yes, Critical Scope is amazing.
Yes, it's here on YouTube. Check out Critical Scope, all one word. The Periscopes are posted there. But as Matt was saying in the Periscope, it's an alignment change is more than a single action. Now, had Scanlan planned on taking out the innocents, or if he continues to ignore the innocents on the battlefield, then it could cause an alignment shift. But this was a split-second decision made in a fog of war through a very narrow viewpoint.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm making a little too much out of it.
No, I like that perspective because,
Yeah.
someone like me who has never been put in a situation such as that before, I see it and I just see innocence. Oh no. But now that you've, put that point of view across, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
Believe me, it
yeah.
is
It's
even
sad, but it makes sense.
even though it's D&D and he's just, sitting there quote unquote playing a game.
Just D&D? What?
Hold on,
No.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Even though it's just D&D and they're just playing a game, all of these players have become very attached to their characters and think just like their characters. So when stuff like that happens, and if you go back and rewatch that particular portion of the episode, you can see on Sam's face he didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
He thought about, he gave serious thought about just completely changing what he was going to do. But he didn't see a better option that would complete the mission.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair. That's a fair call.
um,
Wouldn't you just love to get Sam on the podcast right now and
I
ask
would
him about that?
indeed.
Just that one question. What was going through your head at that moment?
Now,
Oh well.
if unfortunately, with the way the cast's scheduling is, it's very rare that they have the opportunity to sit down with someone like us to just have an interview and just chat for about
Yeah.
an hour, unless you can schedule it. And in which case, they have to prioritize, well, what's going to put food on the table and what's not.
Yeah.
So, if we want them as to be guaranteed as a guest, we would have to raise the money
Make
to
it make
get,
it worth their while.
yeah, to make it. I don't like the phrase "make it worth their while" because then it makes them sound stuck up. But it's really, they're really not.
No, no, they're quite.
Oh no,
Oh,
no, I
anyone who watches Critical Role knows.
yes, um, but they do have, or they do have to think about. I have so many different opportunities, all vying for my attention. How do I prioritize what I apply my attention to and what I don't?
Of
And
course.
really, the looking at which pays better is only a method to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are times where Matt and Marisha have turned down higher paying jobs because there's something that they're more passionate about. But by the same token, I don't want to approach the situation as, oh, this is Critical Role. You need to be extremely passionate about it. Come talk to us.
Yeah.
I don't want to have that conceit either. So,
Of course not. No. We'll just sit here and think on it.
yes. And, now that I've sidetracked
Chat.
this completely,
It's okay.
um, so after
So
that,
Kev, yeah.
go ahead.
Kevdak gets a lovely heal.
Yes, he gets a heal, then takes a
Uh,
fireball. Um,
yeah.
and when things are, Kevdak is obviously trying to retreat from the battlefield. So the other barbarians, as per their plan, um, they start grabbing the innocents and threatening them, to try to distract our heroes.
Yeah. Try to draw them all out as well.
Yes, draw them out, distract them so that Kevdak can retreat, and then, have some sort of um,
More advantage, I suppose, to hit
yeah, that sort
everybody,
of thing.
because there was still a couple of people still hiding behind houses and on top of roofs. But
Yes.
I've done this before in games as well, where I've had my party hiding in a house, and I'm like, well, this is going to get boring really quick. So I've actually had the bad guys pull innocents out and start just destroying them on the street and being very graphic. And there's blood and they're screaming and they're shouting and just to draw your players out. So it's a very old GM tactic to use innocence to kind of motivate your players to interact in combat. It's a good
Indeed.
one to use.
Um, but the party focuses on the mission, knowing that they have to get Kevdak down first. They have
Yep.
to get those Titanstone knuckles. So Vex flies back out, drops GROG out of the jewel onto Kevdak.
Like a flying assassin.
Yes. And he just drops down with the blood axe and just cuts Kevdak in half.
Oh no.
Um,
Yeah, he rolled a natural 20.
yes.
Another natural 20 on his attack as he was coming down, so it was a brutal critical. Uh, uh, right down on Kevdak's head. He'd already taken tons of damage. It was perfect timing. And a few people said in like Reddit and on chat and stuff, did they like script this? Because that's too perfect. It was too perfect. It's
Yes.
like, how at the end could you have such a perfect ending to this battle? It's like,
as
dies.
as Kalia would say, the power of. Oh, I apologize, Kalia. My mind just blinked midway through that sentence.
We're missing you, Kalia. Can't you tell? You should be here.
Oh, the off-the-cuff acting. What's it called?
Improv?
Improv. The power of improv is strong with them. That's what I was trying to say. But, just, wow.
It's perfect.
So once Grog, kills Kevdak, he actually hits the ground and takes, additional damage from the fall. And we find out how low Grog really was.
Yep. I
It
think it was on like 4 hit points.
Yeah, at one point, crit roll stats had said, by our calculations, Grog is down to 1 hit point.
Oh crap!
Ashley had said 4 hit points.
I thought it was 4.
Either way, that was a 50-foot drop. 1 hit point, 4 hit points, didn't matter. He fell unconscious.
And he wasn't raging, so.
And it was full damage. Which I kind of disagree with that particular call. I mean, it's Matt's game. I'm not saying he's
What's
wrong.
the dispute on that?
So, when when Vox Machina got the jewel, Matt had made a point to say no time passes for the individual in the jewel.
Right.
Which means Grog never had another round. He went in raging, he should have come out raging. But that's just my interpretation. Matt ruled it that he went in raging, but because the real-time combat, he didn't take any damage for a round, his rage dropped.
Yeah. Which is also, just while we mentioned this, why Kevdak continued to rage through paralysis. How do you...
Paralysis.
I am going to use another... Yeah, I'm going to create my own language one day. Paralytical. Because he was taking damage.
Yes.
So a lot of people were like, how is he still raging? He's paralyzed. He can't hit anything if you take damage.
If you take damage or
continues.
Attack. Either one.
Yes.
Now...
Yeah, so Grog's dropped. But...
Yeah, but, in the Periscope, Matt had also said that if Vox Machina had just waited a round, Kevdak's rage would have dropped. And he probably would have died just that much faster. So,
well.
But still. So, unfortunately, at that point, Grog's unconscious. What do? You get a healer on Grog.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that was Scanlan again.
Yeah, Scanlan was the one to heal Grog. MVP. And Vax actually stood up, and Vex as well. So the twins kind of came together and started talking
Yes.
to the tribe to pause combat. She rolled a natural 20
yes,
on her intimidation check.
Vex actually shouted out something along the lines of, "Barbarians, witness the fall of Kevdak. Witness Grog."
Yeah. and then she was like, and it was like, it was good.
Yes.
So that was awesome. And then, of course, she rolled a natural 20. I mean, as Liam said, you open up to the dice mat and the dice decides. So obviously the dice gods were like, yes, that was awesome. Gave her a 20.
Yes.
And everyone, it didn't stop combat, which is good because I was thinking, even though it's a natural 20, they're not just going to stop.
No.
So he had them pause in like shooting position,
Yes.
which was, it gave them that time then to like breathe.
So then once, Grog is healed, Scanlan uses Big B's hand to lift him up so that everyone can see him.
And I love this description as it's a dainty hand because it's
Yes.
subservient
With the pinky
to Grog
out.
with the pinky out. Perfect.
um, so, Grog gives his little speech. And actually convinces the barbarians to bring out Xanror. And this I did not see coming.
No, me neither.
The too long didn't read version of it is Grog did not take control of the barbarians. He gave control to someone else.
Yeah.
When Xanror was brought out, Greenbeard came forward and, tried to condemn Xanror, tried to convince Grog to kill Xanror. Grog picks up the blood axe and says, "For too long you have been a cancer within this barbarian herd." And he kills Greenbeard.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
You thought he was gonna kill Xanror?
Honestly, the way the situation was presented, I thought he was going to kill Xanror because every time Grog had talked about Xanror, it was in an antagonistic way.
Yeah.
Xanror and Grog have never seen eye to eye. Xanror tried to kill Grog and failed. It just...
Yeah, so where did this trust suddenly come from?
Looking at it from an analytical viewpoint, it does make sense that Grog would not take control of the herd. Because he had gotten his ass handed to him, and then when he challenged Kevdak directly, he called in the rest of Vox Machina. He didn't do it on his own.
Yeah. It would have been a tough sell.
Yeah, a very tough sell. Xanror is still a tough sell, but...
Yeah.
But not as tough as Grog. Greenbeard would have been the easier sell to the herd, but Grog made the right choice in my mind because Greenbeard would not have been as honorable.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt kind of hinted that it was Greenbeard who pushed for them to bend the knee
Yes.
to the dragon. So he obviously was a wimp,
Yes.
to put it simplistically.
So, with that, they brought the episode to a close as the herd prepares to face the dragon tomorrow.
Dun dun dun! I do want to point out my favourite moment in the episode was when Liam said, "And he falls a little bit deeper."
Indeed. So, at that particular point, this was before Vex dropped GROG on Kevdak. But Keyleth, it was after the fireball. Keyleth dropped out of her air elemental form and cast Firestorm in such a way that it hit the barbarians but did not hit the innocents.
Hot, baby. Hot.
I think that was exactly what Liam had said.
Yeah.
And after that, he brought up Vex falls a little bit deeper.
Vex falls a little bit deeper. And then all the girls were like, ooh. But I did it at the exact same time as I was watching it in sync with them. I was just... And then I was looking at them going, oh my gosh, we all felt exactly the same about that. It was just so sweet.
And the males, looked at him like, what? And so as the girls are going, ooh, he goes, in love.
In love. Let's be specific here.
Yes.
I'm a Gilmore girl. I've made that clear in a couple of conversations in the past. I root for Gilmore personally. But I don't know, I just want something to happen with this. Like, I feel like something big is coming between those two, so...
Yes.
And Akiva kind of kicked it in the butt a couple of episodes ago, but... There's something still there. Yeah.
With Liam taking that, or making that particular line, she didn't dry dock the boat. She just took the sails down a little bit. That's all.
That's true. Just hold up a bit.
Yes. So, they ended the episode there, and as we've said throughout this episode of the Gossip, Matt did a Periscope, and he actually mentioned some of the stats of the Titanstone Knuckles and the Blood Axe.
Yeah.
The Titanstone Knuckles give you giant strength, which means your strength becomes a 24.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does this mean Pike gets her gauntlets of ogre strength back?
She better. She wears them so well. She better get them back.
Yes. But so not only that, but once per long rest. Now he wasn't certain if it was long rest or short rest in the Periscope, but I suspect it's a long rest because it's a little too powerful for a short rest.
Yeah.
But they get the bonus of the enlarged spell, which increases their AC, increases their damage.
Yeah.
So many increases on that. Plus, it gives the wearer siege damage, which is double damage to structures and objects, which is very similar, as Matt said, to the Earth Elemental ability.
Finally, those doors.
Doors
are going down.
As was said in the Periscope by the user Taldor, nice pun
oh my
there.
God.
Bonus points for that pun. Taldore had asked, why there weren't more doors in the episode. Well, Taldore, you have met your match.
Oh no.
But the Blood Axe itself, I like to, as Kalia and I were talking about, in a private conversation, we called it the Junior Craven Edge.
Sure.
It doesn't buff the user the way Craven Edge does, and it doesn't try to eat the user's soul. Thank all the gods for that one. Thank, thank Mercer. Blessed be his name. um,
Don't say that. You're going to start something.
I probably am. I only bring it up because somebody actually wrote a prayer, a Vox Machina prayer.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. It's on Twitter. I'm not going to include the link simply because I didn't think about it until now, and trying to find it, I'd have to go through over 5,000 tweets to find. So, sorry guys. But no, what the Blood Axe does do is it does the normal, axe damage, 1d12 damage, but it also does, I believe, 1d10 necrotic damage versus living targets. Um,
Right.
so
Nah,
if, go ahead,
that's nasty.
it is,
Yeah.
but if they're going up against an undead or a construct, they don't get that bonus damage. So a little trade off there, but I think that is a much more balanced magic item than Craven Edge was.
Yep.
Then again, Craven Edge had a much bigger drawback, so.
Yes, whether they knew it or not.
Yep. And that will bring us to the wrap up for this episode of The Gossip. Um, so if you want to go ahead and. Because these are primarily your questions.
Oh, well, one of the biggest questions was, could Grog have taken Kevdak 1 versus 1? And I'd love to hear from viewers too, if you guys are listening to this. What do you guys reckon? Do you think that he could have taken him if it was just a 1 versus 1 the entire battle?
Yes, definitely let us know what you think in the comments below.
Personally,
My,
I think no.
I have to agree with you there.
No.
Travis realized pretty quickly he was not going to win this. That's why he called Vox Machina in on it.
Yeah.
A 1v1
And
would
it
not have
was
ended
good
well.
that he had, the was able to put his pride aside and do that, because I've known players who probably wouldn't have and kept going till the end.
Well, Matt had said
Sometimes you just have to realize.
Matt had said in the Periscope that he was very impressed that Grog had realized that his strength comes from his friends and actually incorporated that into the character growth.
It was a great throwback to that monk
Absolutely.
fight. Yes.
And if anyone is curious about how the combat was going, I believe you found something to that effect.
Yeah, so there's a table by Vance Kelly on Reddit, and it's a pretty cool table. It shows all of the damage and heals taken throughout combat. I found it really interesting. I like numbers like that.
Absolutely. The link to that will be in the description below.
Yeah, check it out.
But it shows the damage and the heals. It is just a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, thanks, Vance.
Indeed. Next week, or this coming Thursday, possible dragon fight.
With a
Maybe.
possible half orc army or barbarian army.
Possible barbarian army.
Maybe.
As you pointed out, the mass combat rules are on page 250 of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yes. Hopefully makes it a bit easier on Matt.
Hopefully.
Oh my gosh, 40 people.
Personally,
30 people.
I'm thinking we have not this coming episode, but the episode after that is going to be the dragon fight. That's just my thought.
There's going to be a bit of planning,
Yes.
I think. They're not just going to go in there with swords drawn going, "Come here, dragon!" They'll be smart about it.
Yes. And there was a possible guest that was in the studio watching it.
I missed this. I must have been half asleep when this was mentioned, but I saw someone mention on Reddit that Patrick Rothfuss was
Yes.
in the studio.
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
At the end of the episode, Matt had said a possible guest, and I don't know if he just meant, a guest as in Geek and Sundry had a guest there to view the taping, doing air quotes around taping, but
Right.
or if he meant possibly Patrick Rothfuss having a guest spot on Critical Role.
I would die. I would die if he gets to actually play on Critical Role.
It
I
would
love Patrick Rothfuss so much.
indeed, it would be amazing, but I don't know. It was kind of ambiguous,
Yeah.
so I don't know. We shall
Crazy. I
see.
didn't even know he watched Critical Role.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Crazy.
So, but that will bring us to this week's DM's Corner. And this week we're going to talk a little about actually leveling your character.
Uh-huh.
Now, each class has its own method or bonuses and such, what happens at each level. And because this is just a little one question section of the show, we're not going to get too in depth into the actual leveling of the character. I saw a question over on Jeremy Crawford's Twitter, Jeremy Crawford D&D, asking if leveling requires a long rest. In the player's handbook, in the Dungeon Master Guide, it doesn't mention whether it requires one or not. It's not a part of the rule set one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, you have DMs like myself who believe that when you are adventuring, you're not just going through the motions of what you're doing. Your character is also thinking about, how can I make these attacks better? What more can I do to improve my skills? What can I do differently?
Actually RP it,
Well, yes and no.
in a sense.
Um, I think of it like daily life.
Yep.
In your day-to-day life, you are doing things. You're at work, working on a computer. You're playing a video game. You're playing D&D. But while all of that is going on, you're improving your skills. You're learning something new. So for me, leveling is that brief moment of, oh, I can do this, or I can do that, or this is how I can improve on something I already know. So for me, it's an instant leveling up. Probably not going to happen in the middle of combat, mainly because
Right.
you're more worried about, not getting hit.
Yeah.
But, anytime that you're not actively doing something, sure, why not
Yeah.
level up? What about you? What's your
Yeah,
take on it?
it certainly doesn't require a long rest. Just in answer to that question, that's not a requirement. I mean, DMs can run their games however they like. So if you wanted to implement that as part of your rule set, go for it. Just make sure that your players are aware that that's what you require from them at the beginning. Leveling for me has just always been one of those things where at the end of the session you give out the XP, and if people have leveled up, that's fantastic. Next time they come in at a higher level. Personally, for me as a player, I do like to RP it a bit when I level up, especially if I take on things like feats or massive changes to my character. I like to have a bit of a play with that and give a reason as to why suddenly she can now do this and suddenly she can now do that. But of course, that's not a requirement. But yeah, it's just Yeah, it doesn't require a long rest. You can hand out XP at the end of each session, so it shouldn't really impact combat or anything like that, unless, of course, you call the session in the middle of a combat situation, which I don't know why you would do that.
Well, I have had sessions end where
In the middle of
in the
combat?
middle of combat.
Oh, that's tough.
Well, Desert Winds is a good example of that. We have a hard cutoff time because Critical Role starts immediately after
Oh,
our
okay.
session. So we'll go to the end of a round, or sometimes just the end of a turn, and we have to cut off so we can host Critical Role over on Critters D&D.
And then you have to pick it back up again the next session. That's rough.
It is rough.
On you, Kalia.
Kalia has been really great about that, though.
Yeah. So,
The
Majid, then, you wouldn't do XP at the end of a session if it breaks in the middle of a combat
Nope.
scenario? No.
No,
Yeah, you would hold.
Wait until the combat is resolved.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But there are DMs out there that require long rests. I had a game that, unfortunately, it imploded because we had a rules lawyer for a DM, and then his brother, who was also a rules lawyer as a player, and so they just kept arguing back and forth, and it just was not a healthy game. So it imploded. But his ruling on it was 2 long rests to level up.
What?
Yes. Because for him, for him, he saw it as a process of, you realize you can do these things, but you're going to take the 2 days to practice it and get those skills down. I mean, I can see his reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
It's a little harsh, but, that's his call.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean, if he lets you guys know at the beginning and you're aware,
he let us know
that's his goal.
from the first, because our first session was primarily character building and going over how he ran the rules.
Right.
So we knew from the beginning that's what we were getting into.
Okay.
Crazy. So that will bring us to the end of this episode of Gilmore's Glorious Gossip. If you enjoyed the episode, use a hex on that like button and subscribe to catch us each and every week. Send in any of your D&D questions to us using the hashtag DM's Corner. That's DMSCORNER. And if you want to submit art, please contact us via Twitter, either using the official @Gilmore_gossip, or you can contact us directly. I'm @AKIVADAPHYDD.
And I'm at KittensmittenG on Twitter, KITTENSMITTENG. Have a nice day, guys.
We hope you enjoyed, and until next week, kick back, relax, and enjoy your games.